Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out some more solo leveling, and we are getting into this first instance dungeon, really with Juno getting into his abilities and really seeing what he's capable of now that he's been training for a little bit. And I think this is a really important moment for him because it's where he realizes that he doesn't need to rely on other people in order to hold his own. Like, he has spent so much of his life accepting that he is weak and needs other people to support and protect him, and this is his moment to really prove that he doesn't need that necessarily. But it's also a double-edged sword because I think he swings a little bit too far on the other end and becomes very separated from other people and very much feels like he needs to do things solo, as the name implies. And there's also him dealing with like the trauma of having gone through the double dungeon and all of the things that happened there with him. Like he basically was horrifically killed, and the only reason that he is still around is because of his second awakening and like the mechanics of it. So there's a lot of things wrapped up in this first instance of him going through this dungeon on his own, but we're also going to get to fight some wolves. So let's just get into this, and I'm interested to see if we'll get through the whole thing in this episode. I'm not quite sure about the pacing of the season yet, but we'll have to wait and see. In 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah. And you're on your own. You're stuck in this dungeon by yourself until you figure it out. So, some good agility there. I mean, a little bit of a rough landing, but he seems to be doing okay, all things considered. He's got all those strength stats now. So he just like brute forces his way through. Yeah. He fights with his bare hands for a while. Which, I mean, fair enough. If your whole thing is you don't want to feel weak anymore, defeating enemies with your bare hands is a good way to do that. Like, he's fist fighting a wolf. If you want to feel strong, that seems like a good way to go. Wing it? That seems to be your strategy so far. I mean, I guess he does have some strategy, but he's better at strategy when he isn't super strong and like can outpace his enemies. Like, he's so much better when it's challenging and he needs to be strategic. But I feel like a lot of it is him trying to feel strong, right? So he's just like brute forcing his way through without thinking about it because he has something to prove. And there's a certain like, I think, adrenaline to him just like fist fighting enemies as opposed to actually coming up with like a battle strategy. I don't judge that though. I mean, I'm always like a tank and stuff in RPGs because I wanna brute force my way through stuff. I want someone to hit me and have it hurt them more than it hurts me. And I think that's definitely because in real life I am small and very likely to be blown over by a strong wind. So in video games, I want to be able to fight stuff with my bare hands. So I get it. It's also kind of crazy to see Juno is like early days because he's so tiny. I got used to him after his glow up. I mean, you can, you just don't know it yet. That's part of the whole arc here, is you figuring out that you can do it on your own, but you should also like have some backup. Ooh. Love how they animated that. Dang, boy. Yeah, you got some items. Oh yeah, he talked about not knowing about video games, which I think is funny considering that's what his power ended up being. I like grew up with video games. I played them so much that I'm just like, this all makes sense to me. What are all those strength stats for if you can't pull a sword out of the ground? There you go. Ooh, I love how we stayed on that shot. Also, props to the voice actor because you can hear like so many dynamics in it. It's true, you've been through worse, unfortunately. Yeah, take five. Mm. Yeah, you do figure out that fighting is more efficient way to level up, which becomes a bit of a addiction later. It is a little bit weird that he's just sitting here talking to himself. Like I understand like for the mechanics of how it works, but we've been doing voiceover stuff like now. It's weird that he's just speaking out loud to himself as opposed to like it being in his head. You haven't collected any gold yet? That's a cool shot. Oh. Yeah, remember when you said you might die before you accomplish that? You might have conjured something. Ugh, that line breaks my heart. Like I get that it's true, but I'm also sad that he had to go through the trauma. And it continues to be a thing that like I mean, obviously it continues to be a thing for him that he struggles with. But let the music change there anyway. But like it's something that like changes from something like triumphant like it is now into something that feels more, I don't know, there's some toxicity to the way that he like embodies his near death experience. I love the way that they incorporated that like slashing artwork because if I remember the artwork from the manhwa, it was almost like in like the gutters between the actual panels that they had a lot of that because that's usually how the fights go where they put some of the action into the gutters so that it and kind of like speed through it a little bit. I also love that we keep setting up this portal opening up. Saying weapons are disposable also seems like we're foreshadowing some other toxic behavior. I'm in a really weird spot with where I am with Jinwoo and like who he is as a person. You could run like you said you would. We've all done it, okay? We've all just tried to level up super quickly at the beginning of a game by defeating a bunch of easy opponents. How are we doing? I love that we're spending some time with Juhi too, because like she kind of disappears for a while and then shows up later and a bit more sporadically. I like that we're kind of we're giving her some more time where we're actually seeing her like set up some of the other things that she like talks about when she sees Jinwoo again. I do like that there's a color coding system. We're looking pretty raggedy though. Are we expecting it to play by the rules of reality? I thought we'd left that behind. I'm waiting to see it in animation. This is one of the moments I've been waiting for. This like whole like opponent. One of my favorites. Maybe it's just because I like snakes. Call me a weirdo, but serpents, yes, please. Look at it. I mean, I know it's an enemy, but also look at it. I don't know why. Oh, I guess I was gonna say, why are we holding a sword like a dagger? I forgot that we broke it, so I guess it is kind of a dagger now. Inside. Go for the mouth. Oof. I love how like the pacing of this is so frantic and so disorienting. Like some great use of like perspectives and like speed and angles in the way that they're putting it together. Like obviously some of that is like the original panels, but I love the way that they're putting that, incorporating that into the animation, because it is jarring for him. Oof. Feels like double meeting considering that we lost an arm. Ooh, it was almost a good landing. Jeez. I'm waiting for like Juno to go demon mode because that's what I call it when I'm reading the manhwa, where he has these moments where his eyes, there it is, where his eyes are just like trailing blue and he goes like, he lacks emotion. He just goes like full like berserk mode. Ugh. Every time I see that smile, I'm just like, ugh. Mm. I also feel like saying kindness won't save you also is foreshadowing some things. Some great choices with the music. Like lots of different styles, but also moments where it's quieter. Here we go. Demon mode. The terror we all felt. I will take Snake Boy any day as opposed to whatever the heck that creepy statue was. Ooh, some 3D animation there. Yeah, I remember this. I remember thinking, holy crap. Ooh, the shift in the animation style, like it's being like super like sketchy looking. See right there, like that huge buildup in the music, and then there's no music here. Just like really cool uses of like sound design. I would say stronger, yeah. I say that's a fair assessment. And there it is, the blade. Do we actually get cleaned up, or are we just some crazy person walking through the subway with a bunch of blood from our head? Okay, cool. I was gonna say it'd be a little bit difficult to explain that one. get a moment to really show off. I mean, barely a break. It's a good thing that he has some healing abilities so that it gets rid of like his fatigue and injuries and stuff. Yeah, the big one. Leave it to people to still crowd around. I would not be. I'd be like, bye-bye. Like, I don't care how normalized it is in my society. Even like things now where there'll be something minor and I'm like, bye. Like the other day there was a car crash and there was a bunch of people around taking pictures and I was like, nope, I'm gonna be as far away from that as possible because there are people who need to actually be part of it and it's not me. They need someone who can strategize. We know someone like that. This is like when I love Juno, is like when he's in full strategic planner leader mode. That's my favorite moment for him. She's in shock, okay? She's got trauma. See? Trauma. I mean, 1 week. Don't be so judgmental. I have trauma I'm still dealing with. Have no fear. The weakest hunter is here. I love this shot. Like, he just one-shots it and, like, disappears into the crowd. And the legend begins. Yeah. Nope. But we're starting to change. Mm-hmm. I mean, definitely changed from the beginning where we were like, let's go into this dungeon and we can just run away if we want to. Like, it's fine. Or I can't do this on my own. I need a team or a healer with me. And then to that where he's like, let me just KO this this creature real quick with a broken sword in one hit. Definitely an evolution in his power. But it's like it's a great little way of one showing how much Genoa has progressed from like going into that dungeon to afterwards, showing the power scaling, and then also starting like the rumors and legends of there being this powerful hunter that's newly on the scene that causes some issues later on. But you know, it does multiple things. I like how like I'm waiting for a preview. Like I don't already know what happened. Look, I just saw that Netmarble was in this. I guess because it's also a Korean story. Can't wait to get to some more stuff. I'm so happy we got to see my snake boy in this one. Again, no, it's an enemy, but I wasn't sure if we were going to get to the end of this dungeon in this episode, like if they were really going to speed through or if we were going to take some time with it, because it is a really important part. I was like, I kind of feel like they were going to speed through it because I kind of feel like I know where they're going to end the season. So we don't really have enough time to dwell on too many of the fights and enemies that are coming up. There's one that I hope that we focus in on, but mostly I feel like we're going to kind of speed through a lot of this to get to where I think they're going to end this season. But I think that this is such an important foundation for Juno as like a character. One, scaling up a ton in his abilities. Two, showing off what his power ability is and like figuring out the mechanics of it. Three, really doubling down on the fact that he is wanting to not be weak so badly, wanting to not be helpless. The line there was like, kindness won't save you. Like you can't be a good person and have that be enough to get by in the world, which is something that he has experienced. Like he struggled and struggled for so long, not just trying to support his family, but also to be a hunter, and was still called the weakest and looked down on. And, you know, people were happy when they saw that he was going to be part of a dungeon because they're like, oh, this can't be that difficult because Juno's here. So like, it's going to be easy. That kind of mentality towards him, even though he tried his best and continued to struggle through and kept showing up. He was doing all of the things that you are told that you're supposed to do when you're trying to get stronger or prove yourself or accomplish something. And it still wasn't enough. And he still found himself in this situation where he was basically killed and needs to deal with the trauma of that. The only reason he's alive is because of his second awakening. And there were tons of people who did not make it out of that dungeon. So there's so much to his struggles and how his mentality shifts. And I feel like this is a really important moment of him, like not only shifting in his power set, but also shifting in his mindset and the way that he sees his abilities, sees himself. He still has that lingering doubt of like him saying like, oh, the creature's defenses must have been weakened and that's why one shot did it, right? Like he doesn't fully understand how strong he is yet, but there's definitely a different set to the way that he holds himself at the end of this episode as opposed to the beginning. So there's just so many things wrapped up in like this part of the story that are going to be important to Juno's character going forward, that are like fundamental to who he is. It all kind of stems back to him going up against this snake and the way that he talks to himself and the way that he decides that he's going to get stronger no matter what, because being weak but kind or being weak but strategic didn't help him. He had all these other traits to him. Like he was always had a great strategic mindset. He was always willing. He was brave because he definitely knew he was going to get hurt in these situations and he went anyway. He was always nice to people. He was always wanting to help out. Like there were so many things to him that are good, like all these wonderful qualities. And he was still marked by the fact that he was weak. So his main focus is being strong no matter what it takes. And like I said, like there are certain things where it feels like triumphant at this point, but there are also moments later on where it feels more of a toxic thing where he feels like if he can just keep getting stronger, then he can somehow counter the trauma that he has. Like at some point he will be strong enough that the trauma won't affect him anymore. And that's not how trauma works. Like it doesn't matter how far you get from the situation, how much stronger or sure in yourself, or the number of wonderful supportive people that you have around you. It doesn't mean that the trauma won't rear its ugly head at the most unopportune moments. It doesn't mean that there won't be times where it sinks in and it takes all of the strategies and all of the safeguards that you've built up to help you carry it for a little bit longer. So he's got some struggles and some growing to do, but I think that there's some great things in this episode, some great like pacing choices. I love the disorientation of the beginning of that fight with the snake. I love the sound design in this as well. I kind of like, part of me feels like I'm cheating a little bit with reactions because I'm like, I kind of know this story already because I've been reading the manga. That's weird for me to like know some of the story. So there's like plot beats that I don't necessarily have to focus in on, but it means that I get to focus on other things, the animation and the sound design and specific pieces of dialogue and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this place to go see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe to miss next time I post a solo leveling reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.